Americans! Welcome back to the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we look at movies we love, break them apart, to find out what gives them their magic. I'm your host, Josh Griffey, joined as always by my hideously burned, obnoxiously monologuing, child-abusing therapist and co-host,
Alex Dandino!
Evil! No, okay,
Evil!
guys, some business before we start this jaunt into Halloween Town again. As always, please take a second and leave us a rating and review wherever you find the show, especially if that happens to be Apple Podcast app. That helps us out enormously. We've seen an influx of these. Thank you guys so much for that. Get at us on all the social media. We are wherever you are. We love communicating with you guys. Thank you for that as well. Your movie-loving friends, give us a shout-out. Share us on your timelines. Help spread this Film Alchemist podcast around. That also means the world to us. You can email the show, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com, with your ideas for movies you'd like to see us cover. New, old, themes, double features, guest hosts. Your selection for when we stuff your stocking in December, which is when we do Listener Selection Month. Anything like that, please reach out to us. Also, you may see our lovely faces as well as hear our voices on our YouTube channel, Nerd Alchemist. All right, guys, you know we are just deep into the grave that leads to the river of this month. Every day this month, a new horror film for you. Right now, we are in the midst of our journey through Haddonfield and the psyche of Michael Myers. Tonight, we arrive. Halloween 5, the revenge? Question mark of Michael Myers. I don't know what the fuck he's revenging. That's something we can discuss as the show goes on. This to me is where the proverbial wheels on the stolen sanitarium car come off a bit. This is the film where we are introducing more and more Friday the 13th tropes. Mm-hmm. This is where Halloween lost its way to me a little bit. Also, the mask is equally as terrible as part 4, but
by far this is the worst
actor
mask.
is not wearing as many pillows and Stay Puft Marshmallow-y man things under his satanic mechanic suit. Alex, walk me through your initial impressions on Halloween 5.
I mean, to me, it's pretty rare you get an opening sequence for Michael Myers where it's Dark Night of the Soul, you know? Like, he just slowly floats down the river, like, what have I done with my life? How has it come to this?
How strange is that? Because I thought the same thing. I was like, seeing Michael Myers crawl through a pit like Rambo and then come out, like, watching Michael Myers float and kind of swim.
It was very
really
Shawshanky. It was I was really expecting Morgan to be like, Michael Myers, who came out a river of shit and came out clean the other side. Like, that kind of shit. Like, it was very, like,
okay,
with the music, too, like, super kind of contemplative. It was kind of strange. I was like, what's going on with this guy?
Well, He's
probably choking on water because his mask is still on.
Right? He still has that mask. He did just survive 85 million bullet shots, so maybe the water is coming out of those holes. I don't know. Like a fucking cartoon. Worse retcon before a sequel. Halloween 5, where instead of Michael Myers falling into a hellmouth, he falls into an empty hole that leads to a river. The police, instead of doing their job, are like, dynamite! And then he floats to a sailor in the middle of Illinois, or Halloween H2O to Resurrection, where we are to believe that Michael Myers somehow foisted his mask and satanic mechanic suit onto an unsuspecting EMT who then does all of the things in that truck with Laurie Strode. Worse retcon for a sequel, this one or Halloween Resurrection?
Ooh. I got to go with Resurrection because at least here I have the ability to explain away Popeye catching Michael Myers and bringing him back to life.
Okay. Now, let me stop you here for a second, because this is wildly important to the episode that I want to deliver to our listeners. This might be the most terrifying thing in the Halloween franchise that I had absolutely forgotten about. So Michael Myers is picked up by a sea dog, right? Essentially a fog-style pirate man who has a parrot
Popeye.
sidekick, right? Yeah. I remember
It was like the
that
actual Popeye and not Robin Williams.
more alcoholism, olive oil left because he was roughing her up. That kind of a Popeye. But this is a sailor who lives on a river in Illinois, my neighboring Midwestern state. Neither here nor there. What I had forgotten is that... So...
You can't even get through it.
Wait a second. I just was running through the premise in my head trying to form a sentence. And almost choked on spit, right? That is the curse of the Thorn right there. Holy shit. So, Michael Myers is caught on Halloween night by this old sea dog, right? The next time we see Michael Myers is Halloween Eve. The next year, he's laying on a bed in his full satanic mechanic thing. His mask lovingly on a hook, looking at the bed. This is key to my theory right now. Do you think we have a Kill Bill pussy wagon scenario for poor Mike Myers in this one? Because imagine this. This guy and Michael Myers went through a river winter in Illinois. What was happening in that 1 year?
I'll say this. If we do, there's a huge missed opportunity online that there isn't a video of that scene, and you hear... Like, not being online is very upsetting. But I see what you're getting at.
I wonder if
here.
Tarantino, he's notorious
sure.
for homaging things in his film. Maybe this was his homage in Kill Bill. Michael Myers was the bride.
Perhaps. It's such a weird, like... I don't know.
I've never
it's like
felt
the weirdest
cheated more in my life than the fact that we got nothing from this sequence.
Yeah, of the 4 movies we've watched, getting on number 5, this is the weirdest opening for any Michael Myers movie ever. Like, again, we get this, like, sort of just drip, like, this weird, like, floating down the river, like, hello, darkness, my old friend. Like, that's what I wanted to hear.
So you think this is The Graduate? So is he Dustin Hoffman?
Yeah, this is like Dustin Hoffman when he goes and, like, he falls in the water, like goes in
the back of the bus, and he's just like, I have made a series of regrettable decisions.
Like, honestly, as he was floating down the river, I swear to God, we were watching this today. I even wrote in my notes, I'm like, anybody else here in Scarborough Fair while he's like floating down the river?
The only living boy in Haddonfield.
To Haddonfield Fair. Parsley, sage,
I didn't think we were going to get to
rosemary,
Simon
and
and G-Funk.
Loomis.
I'm super proud. What I'll tell you is that, one, I thought they were setting us up for a Frankenstein, right? Michael Myers is brought in by a blind man. He learns a little humanity, and then he turns, right? The evil is built within him. That's not what happened. And so I think instead of getting knowledge crammed into his skull, something else nefarious was happening. I think that's why the mask was positioned to watch the bed he was laying on. Gross. Mm-hmm. Secondly, I really think this was an enormous missed opportunity where Michael Myers should have had that talking parrot as his sidekick for the whole movie. Could you imagine? It's my niece. It's my niece. Dr. Loomis, lame. The parrot is just talking us through. Maybe Michael's revenge is just him and that parrot chasing down the rapist river liver.
Oh my God, yes, please. That's the fucking movie we should have gotten.
How did the parrot not get a scene where it was talking to Michael Myers? That's insane.
Oh, God damn. Yeah, this movie is like filled with little iconography like that. I'm just like, this whole thing is a missed opportunity.
Well, no, I remember that a sea dog picked him up and nursed him back to health. I forgot that the movie expected me to just say, for 1 year, Michael Myers did not move. And I'm just supposed to not wonder what the fuck that guy's been doing for a year?
I was reading I was reading up on this, and apparently the original conceit was a lot about leading into what we get in Curse, which is a lot of supernatural stuff, and it was supposed to be a guy because like they had that little tease, that little tag at the end where at the end of the little sequence where they show the like tattoo on his wrist.
Yes.
But that apparently was supposed to be a big part of this. There's the subplot, because there's the subplot obviously with like the Man in the Black and all that stuff, but like it was supposed to be a much bigger part originally, I guess, and they just sort of trimmed it all out.
I would argue it is though, right? Because this to me is such a beautiful juxtaposition in what is great about a franchise and what is horrible about a franchise. What is horrible is now you've led me to believe that Michael Myers was just the blow-up doll for this Sea Dog for 1 year and didn't get a parrot out of it. Meanwhile, everything that happens in Haddonfield in this film is literally impossible to accept based on what happened not 1 year ago, right?
Oh my God.
So this is like the worst in franchise, but the best thing they added in the franchise is that just very cool imagery of the Man in Black and the Curse of Thorn. Because now we are led to believe that there is this whole other expansive thing. So as we are watching maybe the most redundant and derivative installation in this franchise, right? I guess you could argue part 2 maybe, but I would say that's where Michael begins to get supernatural. By this point on movie 4 of Michael Myers 5 of the series, this is the most derivative we've seen yet, right?
Right.
And it really is just doing Friday the 13th tropes. That little addition, right, of just the Man in Black walking around and this and that adds a lot, because now our mind's like, oh, fuck, what does all this mean? So that is the best in franchise filmmaking to me.
Well, and I think I personally, I appreciate the queue up. Like, I think that's the kind of thing that I want to see. Like, more often than not, the repeat, like, because we found this with Friday the 13th. I mean, like, I don't really like Friday the 13th had this had that kind of problem. Like I think by 3, you and I were talking about this, being like, this is kind of getting to be like the deal.
No, because part 3 kind of established the hockey mask, skanky teenagers, right? And by like part 5, you're like, Jesus Christ. Like now,
but like I like that in Revenge of Michael Myers we get the queue up, because that's what I think is important. Is like you get this thing in number 2, and then it's obviously not even. There's nothing about it in Season of the Witch, and then 4 is more like retracing your steps. This is like queuing it back up, because that's why we have another wonderful Donald Pleasance Loomis performance. That's probably my favorite one of the entire series by far.
See, I like Loomis in 4 because Loomis in 5, you're like, this guy should be put down like Old Yeller. He is a menace.
That's why I love it so much. He's a menace. He's terrible. Like if he wasn't an awful human being already, it's so much worse in Revenge of Michael Myers. Like, it's insane.
He's
still around.
Not good guy. But what I like about this one, right? Because I did take some shots, and if I'm being honest, this is the last of the Halloween movies we're covering. This to me is just a hair better than H2O, but essentially it's my second least favorite of the Halloween series. Because again, I think it does so little to add to. And we spend a lot of time, like, this is the movie they're like, hey, what if we just follow 4 random teenagers that have nothing to do with the story or Michael Myers, as they're adding all this cool curse and druid shit, and Loomis is all the way off the deep end, right? He's literally riding the back of Moby Dick at this point. Why are we doing these 30, 40-minute detours for these teenagers and the world's biggest dickhole cops, right? So this one falls a lot on those things. But what I really appreciate about Halloween 5, Revenge of Michael Myers, this is the first Halloween movie that set up one of the things that I think makes Halloween a little bit better than some of the other franchises. The Halloween movie gives us 3 to 4 movies where we actually sit and examine the grief of surviving one of these movies, right? So
Sure.
this is Jamie watching and surviving the grief, right? You could say to a lesser extent, Curse of my fucking what is it, right?
This is
The
revenge.
no, not Revenge. The Curse of Michael Myers is a little bit about that, right? Because again, we see older Jamie, which is way more disgusting after you watch this one and all the implications.
Indeed,
And
yes.
Tommy Doyle is Paul Rudd. So you see some of that fallout. Loomis is in it again.
Right.
Halloween H2O is a lot about the survivor's guilt. You have a tiny bit at the start of Resurrection. Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is probably one of the more fascinating examinations of what it is like to survive a slasher movie. And most slasher movies just reset with random body count and teenagers and
Right.
stuff. This is one of the things Halloween does really well. And I think Jamie's performance at the start of this movie, the duality of her and Loomis is beautifully played at the start of this movie, right? So I love the idea of Jamie being psychically bonded with her uncle. And on Halloween Eve, the scene when she sees him kill the salty old pussy wagon rapist, right? And she wakes up trying to scream and watching that cute little girl who we know is a fucking murderer from the last one, also a terrible retcon, right? That she's not a murderer, she's just a scissor stabber. But anyways, she is screaming into the dark, right? But has no voice, right? So it's this almost Little Mermaid-like setup where something of Jamie was lost in that exchange, right? Her battle with Michael Myers took something from her, and she hasn't gotten it back yet. And her screaming into the night and just like having these seizures, it's a really beautiful and powerful visual representation of this, the enormity of what she survived.
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think that Jamie is. I think Jamie next to Jamie Lee. I think Danielle Lloyd, is that a real name? I can never remember the actress's real name, but like next to Jamie Lee Curtis, she turns in one of the best performances, and I think it's because in these movies, if you're gonna have anyone survive a Michael Myers attack in these movies, those actors have to be. What's that?
Danielle Harris.
Danielle Harris, thank you.
Who also came back for both Rob Zombie movies. An integral part of Halloween's DNA.
Right. But I mean, I think that if you're going to have victims return for next movies, because like Loomis doesn't count, but if you're going to have victims return for other movies, Loomis is a whole other thing that we'll get to. You have to give them what I think is probably the most intriguing thing about the Halloween franchise, which is give them actual resonance with what's happened to them. Because you're right. The reset is a big problem with a lot of these movies. Like, you just pick another group of dumb idiots to get killed. Mm-hmm. I think what Halloween does better than a lot of other horror franchises, particularly slasher films, is it actually explores a little more of the trauma. There's like a lot of DNA of this movie and this like series, particularly between like 4 and 6, in what I would say is like the basis for what Scream does. Scream does the exact same thing.
Yeah. I would say Scream because it's a very meta. It feels different, right? To me,
sure.
One of the great examples of this is Nightmare on Elm Street 3, right? So we take Heather, who survived part 1, and all of a sudden she appears in part 3. And because of what she survived battling Freddy and losing her parents and having all that, she is now a therapist who tries to help kids who are also fighting nightmares. And again comes face to face with Freddy, now an older, more seasoned woman, right? Trying to help these dream warriors. And it's so beautiful. It adds this whole extra layer, right? And watching Danielle Harris really struggling with this. In this movie, though, it's not done as well as I would say Halloween H2O, right? Where we see Laurie Strode really, really grappling with it. In Curse of Michael Myers, Tommy Doyle is not an okay human being because of this, right?
Not at all.
We see some really fucked up people, right? Laurie in Halloween 2, the Rob Zombie one, right? She's really going off the deep end, her and Annie, right? Danielle Harris as Jamie in this one is more used as a way to show us, here is a girl that the system failed spectacularly. now watch them do even worse. That's what this one. So her pain and trauma is essentially weaponized against everyone else in the town. And if I had a big problem with this movie, it's that after we get past this really fascinating intro of, oh, her sister's still trying to be a part of it. Her parents left town on Halloween. Brilliant. I don't understand why Haddonfield doesn't have like a super lucrative hot air balloon business on Halloween. Every family just goes up in a hot air balloon and it's like, we'll land 3 states over in the morning. Like, why anyone is still here, why they're having these parties, none of this makes sense, right? And then we just say, let's do the detour where here's 2 friends that we don't care about and 2 douche boyfriends and 2 Keystone cops and care about this movie for 35 minutes, which is almost impossible to do, right? So essentially like the first 20 minutes until Rachel gets killed, nothing good happens in this movie again until Jamie walks up into that attic, essentially. Or at least nothing that matters to me, because I'm like, I don't care about... It's kind of weird because it's so funny. This was the movie that made me think, oh shit, why are Halloween fans not fighting the way Star Wars fans are, right? We want more Skywalkers, right? The Skywalkers are the Myers, right? And some of us just want extra stories in the Star Wars universe. We want more Thorns. We don't care if it's the Myers, right? But I was like, oh my God, this is like the Star Wars movie where it's like, we've had enough of them Skywalking Myerses, right? Let's go kill blonde girl and guy who has the worst laugh ever and dresses as Michael Myers and car guy.
Oh man, that car guy. Oh God. That guy's the MVP of this movie for screaming shout, or for shouting what as loud as humanly possible over his car, thinking that, like, for hearing those girls yell at him from across like a park. And then going, what?
He does play.
That was the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
Actually plays 2 really important parts in this movie. One, he gets the garden hoe to the face, which is fantastic kill.
Awesome kill.
He also lets you know that Tina, our good friend who breaks into the hospital to see Jamie and brings the dog, Max, and still goes and sees Jamie, but she's like, hey, sometimes you meet someone that makes you feel special. Like car guy? And you have to go get drunk and fuck him, even though he's the worst human being of all time.
Yes,
the moment she says that and leaves Jamie, who, by the way, has refound her voice and is screaming for her to stay, you say, oh, I hope she dies worse than every character in a Saw movie. So they just let you know right away, because of Tina's choice in men, wildly expendable to the film, which is strange. There is a cool thing that happens in this segment, though, which is I like the Shrek 2 journey that Michael Myers is on. So Michael Myers is watching these kids at a liquor store, right? And he's like, wow, look at that fucking cool car. The guy with the jacket, he's like, maybe I could have been a cool guy instead of getting, diddled by a fucking salty dog for a year. He's like, maybe I could have been a cool kid, right? With a cool car, right? And he walks up, he steals the car, and they provide him this disgustingly human mask, right?
Yes.
And so while we see the man in black drifting through the shadows, as Michael Myers normally is, Michael Myers is having a simulation of a relationship while driving in his car and being a creep and looking like Shrek from Shrek 2.
It's amazing.
It's the weird... Because again, this is the moment where you're like, this has nothing to do... And now they're telling us that Jamie's more important because of the Thorn. Let's detour for a date in the farm.
It's so weird because it honestly does 2 things. I thought about this today. Like, for one, it kind of like fully violates most of the rules that have been set up about who Michael Myers is at this point. But it doesn't violate the rules that you and I have discussed at this point, which is that he's a calculating son of a bitch, that guy. Yeah. Like, he has a lot of gags set up, and that's one of them.
Why did he slam on the brakes so she could buy smokes?
I don't know. Maybe he was trying to feel human? Was he trying to get rid of this Thorn curse he has?
That's the thing, because this movie sets up that whatever is fueling Michael Myers can be, because we thought it was passed on to Jamie.
Right.
Maybe, and I thought about this, maybe because Jamie doesn't complete the murder, that's why it returns to Michael somewhat, right?
Right.
So if Jamie would have killed her mom with the scissors, which would have been way cooler, since she didn't, this is why Michael's re-engaged. And maybe now that Michael has spent a year getting diddled by the salty dog and imagining what it'd like to be a real boy again, Pinocchio style, right? A real boy and not a donkey. Perhaps in that moment he's like, girlfriends, am I right? Women can't live with them and they can't be standing up, am I right? That's what Michael's saying to himself. And then he sees the cop and drives away. And he's like, wow, I had a real American boy moment. It's a really very strange thing to add to this film.
It is. It's a weird sequence. And to me, it doesn't fit at all with other movies we've seen, but I know why it's in there, which is because it is what's expected from these kinds of slasher movies. Like we were talking about, this one is the first.
This one doesn't
of these
end in a
Halloween
slash,
movies,
so that one's weirder.
But that's what I'm saying is like these movies borrow from each other a lot, and like it's interesting to watch this movie in comparison to like the first two, because the first two are just so much on their own. Like they are the original movie like them. So it's weird to watch movies that kind of in a way originated a lot of pieces of iconography from this to borrow from a completely from a whole nother set of movies. Because honestly, like this isn't
Sean
a Michael
Cunningham said
it's just weird
when
to
he
me.
made
It's not
Friday
a Michael
the
Myers
13th,
thing to me.
Right. Well, yeah. Sean Cunningham said we wanted to make our Halloween, and they made Friday the 13th. By this point, now Halloween is stealing from Friday the 13th, right? The boyfriend with the car getting killed. That is a Friday the 13th kill, right? Mm-hmm. The couple fucking in the barn and then getting stabbed by the pitchfork.
Friday the 13th.
That is a Friday the 13th kill. The two cops who investigate the house to fucking slide whistles and fucking fart sounds. Those are Friday the 13th characters and have nothing to do with the Halloween universe. I will say this. I said this movie cheats us twice. This movie cheats us twice really bad. One, I want to spend that year, right? Like Rob Zombie. I want to do a 50-minute opening of Michael Myers' hellish life trapped inside this body. Being John Myers-Vitch. Right. I want to watch what happened to Michael, right? In graphic, horrible detail so I can see the depth of his pain. Two, because maybe it was nice. Maybe just fed him soup and read him like the traveling sister pants or whatever. And it was really nice and sweet. Maybe it was a bonding moment that makes Michael more nefarious. Or it was a get the Vaseline and my car keys. Maybe it was that. I want to know. But it cheated us the second time. Because there's a scene where Michael Myers kills the fucking comedy cops who aren't funny at all and just have fucking slide whistles and harmonica sound effects. And every time he slashes, it goes, whoop. So every time he stabs them or something goes, whoop. So it's like a Gallagher show of sound effects as their watermelon bodies. I'm dying laughing. So as their watermelon bodies are going, right? Every time those guys get stabbed, you do like a bad morning radio show guy's sound effect. That would have been great. Right? He stabs the guy 3 times and it's like, burr, 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 DJ Khaled. Right? We got cheated twice in this movie very badly.
Definitely have been cheated twice, particularly with the Keystone Cops bit.
But that's what I mean. Understand. Now Halloween is stealing from Friday the 13th, right? Because if you look at that very last bit in the attic and then you look at the opening, you're like, this is what Halloween does well. The entire hour in the middle is just a knockoff of Friday the 13th.
Right. Except for, God bless him.
Except for, I know what you're going to say,
Donald Pleasance as Loomis,
Fucking
which is my
DP,
favorite Loomis performance, because he's, again, we talked about yesterday, like, Loomis is a dick. Nobody wants to be around him. He hates everybody. He's a fucking pain in the ass. They literally, like we said yesterday, the guy literally sits there and goes, he'll either retire or die. Who knows? Either one works for me. Like, they hate him.
Hate him.
He's fully unhinged in this movie, to the point where it's almost dangerous for Jamie in particular. There's the scene where he pretty much full on assaults a 9-year-old.
He's just smacking her shoes off as her nurse is like, dear God, I hope this man leaves.
Smacking her shoes off and like grabbing her mouth like, tell me where he is. He's so crazy in this movie, but it's
so vile,
so entertaining. It's amazing.
Yes, because as we watch him assault a child, and there's even that moment where they open up on Jamie's having a seizure and they're like, we got to cut her throat open. Yeah. And Loomis just pops in. You're like, where the fuck were you hiding, you creep?
Was he just hiding in the broom closet? He's never left there.
She has something to tell us. And you're like, what? She doesn't speak. And the doctor even says, all I know is that you wanted this girl to die. So it tells you how not only the salty sea dog has been nefarious this last year, Loomis been fucking around, right? Loomis been fucking about. This guy's unstable. But there is this... Because this is the thing, you're like, as long as he monologues, are we okay with the child abusing? Because he just goes, I hoped. He's like, look at me. He pulls up his, like, burnt hand. He's like, I had hoped Michael would burn in hell, but I knew hell wouldn't have him. And I was like,
knew hell would not have him.
Like, it's so weird. It's so
like, this girl is seizing, and yet
Donald
he has
Pleasance,
time to monologue.
Right? I am an Illuminati, is what I'll call myself. I'm an Illuminati.
Nice.
I am so in love with Loomis. He's always been my favorite horror movie character ever. And while doing this series, I've had to confront some hard truths.
That he's a total piece of shit.
He's kind of a piece of shit, but I think that makes him better. He's not a white knight. He's a rough soul who's been abused.
Well, I mean, it puts him on the same...
He is what is left of, like, the fucking 5-week-old Play-Doh that you didn't put the lid on, and he's all fucking crusty and dried out.
Well, what's good is it puts him on the same playing field as Michael. So, like, when you see them when you see him come to blows, you're not like, well, honestly, if either of these guys die, we'll be okay. Like, it doesn't really matter at this point.
When Michael assaults him and cuts his belly again... But no, listen, when Michael cuts his belly again, you're like, Loomis, there are easier ways to kill yourself, for the love of fucking God.
I mean, this is the thing that I love about these movies is between these two guys, there's at least one character who's like, honestly, if they kill each other, great. If one of them gets killed, that's, no skin off my back. You know what I mean? There's one character who's just begging for one of them to get iced at this point.
Well, what my favorite addition to the Loomis mythology was in this? Is they did This Old House with your host, fucking Donald Loomis, or Dr. Loomis, right? Where I was like, yes. I would imagine every day is like, is it my lunch break? I only eat misery. I know where the finest sides are served. And it's just Loomis fucking glimping his ass around the Myers house, monologuing every day. Michael, have you come home? Does evil have a home? Or is the home of evil in all of our hearts? I don't know. I'm just here for the seasoned curlies. Right? Him just walking through the house monologuing. I was like, he does this shit every
he did it. I love it when he speaks. I love it. Anytime you get to see a good Donald Pleasance monologue, that's the sweet spot in these movies for me. Like when he talks to the woods, knowing full well Michael's not there, but he just gives his... He's just staring.
Dude, how about that when he's like, y'all want little girls? You know where to find me. I was like, what are you doing, Loomis? This movie also has an enormous, why are the cops just complicit in his crimes?
Not only that, but like the cops know they're complicit. They bring it up. They're like, well, we're inept, And I'm like, don't say that. Because now I know it's a fucking thing, man.
Well, I like to think they added the fucking banana slide whistle cops specifically to explain away the scene when they're like, everyone's already dead at the asylum. Let's send all 25 of the Blues Brothers style police brigade over to the asylum and leave just one really nice cherubic deputy at this house.
I actually really like the scene where they're outside the party and they literally see Michael Myers drive in. It ends up being the boyfriend, but like they literally say, well, that doesn't seem dangerous. Shall we play Crazy Eights? I'm like, good Lord. It's just
he walks up to their car.
He walks right up to the car.
Bloody scythe, and they're like, hey, someone will get their eye poked out with that. But the cops actually say, like, good thing we're not really good cops. Because there's the classic white privilege scene where they're, imagine this. So fucking Tina is friends with Jamie and Rachel. It has been but 1 year since their town and family was ravaged by the horror that is Michael Myers.
Right.
Little Jamie still can't talk. She's still in an asylum. Not that you would know it because they parade her out for Halloween costumes to have seizures and then let her walk out the door and walk 85 miles to a farm. Neither here nor there. So Tina is like, you know what would be hilarious? To get the fucking dickhole with the worst laugh in the movie to pretend he's Michael Myers and see if I could get a cop to shoot him. If this were the real world, those cops definitely would have shot
100%
the Skeletor cackle guy. Because
absolutely,
where do you even get a Michael Myers Halloween costume in Haddonfield after the third fucking time this is only the second time in 4 movies he's committed these atrocities?
It's unbelievable.
So you have citizens who are throwing bricks through a little girl's window saying the evil child must die. They know that she tried to kill the same way her uncle did, right?
Right.
There are still parents that leave their house and or farm open for teenagers to go fuck and do drugs and party.
To just go fucking party. Haddonfield, I feel like, exists in a time loop where, like, the next morning after Halloween, they forget that Halloween happened. So, like, they wake up on November 1st. They're like, boy, I can't wait for Halloween next year. But
it's like a weird Leave It to Beaver thing, and they're like, yeah, so you start Leave It to Beaver, right? The Beaver's sitting there, and he's like, boy, Dad, I'm real happy to go get some candy today. And the dad's like, surely they can't have a massacre 2 years in a row.
Right.
That's not the American dream. And then he's like, get my coffee over here, bitch, to his wife, who has no rights because it's Leave It to Beaver.
You know what I actually want to see? I was actually just thinking about this. I want to see a Halloween where they address the fact that Haddonfield is actually like the Dark City and Dark City.
Yeah.
And Michael Myers.
Oh, my God.
And Michael Myers is actually one of those alien guys who just constantly remakes Haddonfield.
He's Kiefer. That's why he wears the mask. Because he's got that droopy eye.
Yes, that's what I want. I want a Halloween where we find out that Haddonfield is the Dark City.
I will say this. I was like, man, when Michael took his mask off, I was like, that guy combs his ponytail a lot.
Yes.
That is some good ponytail hair. We're skipping ahead, though.
Also, first actor in the series to have black hair.
Is it really? I thought it was light brown. Wow. I did not know that. Look at that. Let's think about what else happened in this segment of the movie that's even worth discussing.
I actually think there's something really important we have to discuss, and that is...
Really? Okay, hit me. What did I forget?
To identify...
I have been drinking a hair, as both of us have, because
yes,
it's been a rough night.
It has.
So if I missed something, I'm sorry.
There is something that I do want to address that we haven't... Like, you came up... The Loomis Naughty is good, but we need to talk about this. Donald Pleasance's performance as Dr. Loomis has now transcended 5 movies. Mm-hmm. 4 movies. 4 movies. Mm-hmm. So, to this point.
And then he's in a 5th one after this, yes.
And then he's in the 5th, and then he's in 6 for a little bit after this. But, like, he's transcended these movies now. But this performance is so particular and so unhinged. And I absolutely love it every single time. but there is something about it that I feel has been borrowed by other actors, particularly like I think about there's ways Donald Pleasance presents lines that sound like Stellan Skarsgård. So I feel like other actors have actually watched Donald Pleasance in these movies and borrowed from him. So I need to figure out a good way to put what it is about Donald Pleasance's performance, what they're borrowing. Like, are they, pleasantists? Is it an ism? Is it an ist? What
I would
kind
call
of
it
actors
looming.
employing?
I would call
Looming?
it looming.
But looming is already
yeah,
a thing.
looming.
Looming is an event. What about a loomist?
But that's the thing. When you tell people like, hey, that guy's looming, that's not a thing that anyone cares. They would call it creeping now, right? Kids call it creeping.
Right, yeah, exactly. So could you say maybe like
retake looming for ourselves?
Maybe like Stellan Skarsgård. Like Stellan Skarsgård is the one I keep coming to because I remember like watching him, like his like gruff demeanor in Chernobyl reminded me of Dr. Loomis. I'm like,
what a weird poll, yeah. But no, see, I would
know.
say there in every movie there's there's an old person who knows what you're fighting and will tell you exactly what you're fighting.
right.
So we can move the fucking plot along and the audience can know.
Are they
That's looming.
Perhaps they're but see looming, maybe it's a loomist. They're the loomist of the movie.
They're the loomist. Okay. Sure.
Looming is a thing. You can loom over someone.
Well, I would say we should change the definition to looming.
You're saying we're just changing I can get along with that. I can get on board with
stealing
that.
the
We're
word
looming.
because looming is creeping.
All right, so
Kids have changed the
assigned
definition.
creeping. All right, so now whenever we see actors do what it is that Donald Pleasance is, which by the way is almost indescribable. It is what it is. It's Donald Pleasanceness. They're looming.
Right.
That's
the
perfect.
same way
like
that if you are baffled, you are Freddie Prinzed.
Ah,
right?
yes, you're
We're
FP
changing
Jang.
that.
That's for sure.
When you stare slack-jawed at something and can't comprehend or summon an emotion, that is to be Prinzed.
True. All right, this is good. All right, yeah. So anytime you're doing whatever it is that Donald Pleasance does, you're looming.
But I mean that what is really fun
on.
is that after Donald Pleasance, you saw it is kind of the same way that in sci-fi movies, right? Because Star Wars was a fantasy movie disguised as sci-fi, and they did the Wise Old Mentor. You saw this rash of Obi-Wan characters, right? Loomis became kind of that. The problem is that Loomis is not that at all. He is a wild Ahab. And I think at the end of the movie, what's really funny is that at the end of the movie, I think that's the first time we've seen Donald Pleasance happy in the whole movie. My argument is that Donald Pleasance actually orgasmed and died in this movie. And that Curse of Michael Myers retconned it, right? Because when he's already been slashed up in his belly and he's like, ah! He was like monologuing with Michael.
Right.
And this is the thing. He says a thing that he can't possibly know and is baffling, especially if you count part 6 as part of this story. When he's like, "She's can takes your pain away. She knows how to do it." I don't know why I'm Werner Herzog again.
Yeah, why are you doing Werner Herzog?
"She's can takes your pain away. Not that pain is a real thing. Every filmmaker must experience the pain, or else the film is just empty and hollow. It doesn't matter." But anyways, he's telling Michael Myers this, right? And he's like, "Ah!" He gets the belly slice, right? And smashed through a fucking window, only to limp his sad fucking California raisin ass back for the next scene. And he grabs Jamie and he goes, "You wanna come get her?" Now he's doing like fucking Dog Day Afternoon Donald Pleasance.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Let's play a game called Catch the Girl." And you're like, oh my God. And especially
he's out of his mind.
Because what he's saying mixed with that coffin and soft lighting up in the attic, you're like, oh God, I know how Michael gets rid of the rage. And this is vile shit. So your mind is running amok, right? Loomis catches him in the chain net. I'm like, when the fuck did you set that up? Jesus Christ. And he starts beating Michael to death, and he's like, "Die! Die!" And it's awesome, right? But then he goes, "Die! Oh, oh, oh." That is when he definitely fills his khakis. His dockers are moistened as he's like, "I've done it."
That's when he
falls.
definitely...
Dude, he falls and lands face to face in the Never Been Kissed 2 shot on top of Michael Myers.
That's true. It's kind of sweet when you think about it.
Yeah, Donald Pleasance also loosed his rage upon his dockers and collapsed on Michael.
That's why he wears that overcoat. So
he wears the flasher jacket, the flasher duster.
Yep, that's exactly why.
He pulls it forward like Bela Lugosi, and he's got a fucking Gallagher splash guard.
Yep. No, he tucks it up in his belt loop. That's why.
Oh, that's all gross. But yeah, I think because he has that weird pause, and I'm like, are we to believe he had a heart attack, or is his soul connected to Michael's, or did he nut and he just fell and stared lovingly into his number one love of his entire human life, Michael Myers' eyes, which I think he did. I think Michael Myers was his all-consuming reason for being, and I loved it, and I was like, that's a really poetic ending, right? Minus the Donald Pleasance being stuck to Michael Myers. Right. They immediately ruin it 1 second later when Michael Myers is just, like, looking around the cell like he's on the Green Mile. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? You should have had him and Pleasance stuck together in a coroner's office.
Yeah, come on, man. Like, Lord. There's a great moment. There's another great opportunity for Donald Pleasance to do his thing, and they just took it away, man.
Yeah.
Very upsetting.
Well, we learn in part 6 that Pleasance survived, but I actually like the idea that as Michael is dying, Loomis lets go, man. His little fucking angry soul spritzed out. And he goes on to a less fucking rageful place. He goes and burns in hell if they'll have him, right? Like all these terrible characters will. I thought that I love Loomis in this movie. I love Donald Pleasance in all of these movies. And I think other than Robert Englund, he does the most to elevate his franchise of any actor in a horror movie. I lie. I would say there are a couple, right? Because the Pantheon would be Robert Englund, Donald Pleasance, Tony Todd as the Candyman, Bradley Dorff as Chucky, right? Those are like my Warwick Davis as Leprechaun, right? Those are like the big ones that really add a huge amount that would be impossible to place in a franchise to me or replace, right? Let's talk a little bit about this final attic moment. Let's get to the Myers family ending because this is a lot to take in.
There's a lot going on in this moment.
What do you make of this moment?
I mean, I don't really know, to be honest with you. Like,
right.
It's
staged bodies.
It's just so much. Like, it's sort of this weird, like, I don't know. Like, when we got there, I was like, this feels more present. Even for a guy like Michael Myers, who we've seen be very presentational at this point, it felt almost too much for Michael Myers.
This felt intimate, which, based in the context of what we're doing here, is really vile and scary.
It feels very... Yes, but something about it also feels... I don't know. It felt very strange to me. Like,
it's also weird to see a 9-year-old girl crawl into a coffin and just want it to be over. This scene to me gets at what Halloween does well, is that in Halloween versus the other franchises, the horror is so personal. And again, they play a lot with this bloodline, and I think the Curse of the Thorn is a fun way to extrapolate on this. The horror is kind of based on the blood, and something is there. But the intimacy of this scene with these two characters, right? Because we just went through this god-awful, horrendous segment of Michael Myers slowly driving a car through trees. He hits a fucking tree and explodes. They did have the cool gag where the horn stops blaring. Anyways, stupid fucking moment. Terrible. I don't want to see Michael Myers drive a car like every fucking middle-aged guy. Terrible, terrible, horrible, bottom of the pits of the Halloween franchise.
Right.
And then we saw Jamie in the fucking laundry chute. Horrible, wasteful amount of screen time. So fucking boring. When we get up to that attic, though, now you're like, oh, fuck. Now they're dropping the Halloween energy on us, right?
Right.
And it's so, there's Rachel, your sister, who's gone. It reminded me a little bit, it was almost as if he was doing like a Hereditary style diorama of, hey, this is what I did to become evil. Now you can too. But this one has some really cool moments, right? So Jamie goes in the coffin willingly. Weird that Michael even got a 9-year-old coffin and all this shit. And she calls him Uncle Boogeyman, right? He pauses. Let me see. And he takes the fucking mask off, man. There's something so extra about that. And then the super close up on Michael's single tear.
Yeah.
This scene really fucked with me in the head a little bit.
Yeah, well, that's, again, this is why I don't understand it at all. And I feel like it's kind of, I don't know why, like, the single tier, I agree. Like, honestly, I spent, like, the better half of the afternoon today trying to figure out I blocked out a lot of this other movie we had to watch today, mainly because I was focusing on trying to figure out why it happened. Because it's just such a strange thing to me, because this is a character who's not an cold, unfeeling killing machine, but pretty close to it, you know?
I would say he absolutely is. He's never shown a bit of emotion other than this, right?
I mean, other than maybe, like, not wanting to get his mask pulled off in the first one.
But that's more of like I'm exposed. It's not.
Right, but I mean, it's still some form of emotion. This one is like, I don't know. It's strangely, maybe this is the part where, maybe this is Michael Myers.
Yeah.
Relieved of the Thorn curse for a moment. Perhaps.
That's this scene to me is the revenge of Michael Myers. This is him for one moment not stabbing her or doing whatever he's supposed to do to complete the bloodline, which is weird because we learn in part 6 he just is continuing the bloodline with her as the mother, which is super fucking horrible and uncomfortable.
Right.
And in the last one, we thought he was passing it off. If that's not the case, he is supposed to kill her, his rage will subside, and he will be able to rest. The revenge of Michael Myers might be that one tier. Because other than Rob Zombie's Halloween 1 and 2, that do a lot of work to bring Michael Myers back to a man, right? All the Halloween movies make him this preternatural, right? Whether it's lifting a nurse up by a scalpel, all the way to Halloween H2O and the dumbest shot in franchise history, where Michael Myers is just cross-fitting one-armed pipe Ramboing himself. Right. They try everything they can to let you know this is not a man. This is not a human. There's nothing. Loomis even says to the sheriff earlier in this movie, "You didn't see his eyes. Oh, I saw his eyes. There's nothing there." I don't know why he's Crocodile Dundee now. There's nothing there. That's not a knife. This is a knife. Anywho, this time we get an extreme close-up of his fucking eye. And there is something there. There's an actual eyeball that looks human and a sad fucking tear. And maybe, just maybe, that one small 30 seconds to 1 minute of the film is the revenge of Michael Myers. That's what let Jamie escape this whatever horrible ritual is supposed to happen. Maybe that is what lets her escape, if only for a very brief moment that night. Because we know it doesn't go well as we start part 6.
I mean, I could buy that.
I thought it was super cool, man. But that's what I get to, because, again, that took me back to, like, Friday the 13th Part 2.
Right.
Where you take this big slasher, oh, there's slutty kids and hot kids and we'll kill them. And then you say, oh, man, this is just a guy who's, like, deformed and has a shrine to his mom, right? This is where Michael Myers is a human again. And I would say it's the 1 minute of the film he's an actual human being. 'Cause the first one starts, he's already made the choice by the time he's POVing in the very first frames of Halloween. He's not a human again until Rob Zombie gets his hands on him.
Right.
Right? And then in the 2018 version, no human. So this 1 minute is all we got for 9 fucking movies of a little bit of humanity inside of the fucking mechanic suit.
I mean, I could buy that. I think that makes more sense than just, I don't know. It makes more sense to me than, oh, family. Like that. Because I feel like that's what the moment's supposed to be. And to me, I like the idea that more it's Michael Myers actually being a person again. Again, for like a minute.
Yeah, maybe that is exactly what it's supposed to be. And maybe for some reason he's like, fuck, she called me uncle. She reached out and somehow found something in him, whether it was her or because he saw Laurie or
Right.
Judith, who knows?
Right.
For one minute, the man who dug up the grave and filled this attic with dead bodies and a dead dog was like, wow, man, not cool.
Oh my God, dude.
Not
So
cool.
many dead dogs in these fucking movies. Jesus
It
Christ.
is the thing I hate most about Halloween, man. Stop killing fucking
So
dogs.
many
It's not a
dead
story
dogs.
device. I hate it.
Wildly unnecessary. But yeah, I mean, I think I like that moment as a beat for this movie anyways, because again, it gives you a little more flavor than I think the previous movie did, and definitely a little more than you got on Halloween 2. So,
well, this movie essentially is an absolute bland and flavorless affair.
yes.
And other than
Except
Loomis
for-
in this moment, they find a. I would, again, the opening with Loomis and Jamie, great. Loomis and Jamie have storyline coming out of their ass.
Absolutely.
But we decide to not spend time with them for fucking dumbass teenagers that no one cares about and two dumb cops.
Right. Well, we spend less time with them for some reason because we're not making this. They're trying to not make this a pursuit movie about Loomis. They're trying to make this not Moby Dick, even though
Right.
it's literally a magnum opus of Moby Dick.
Yes. Because Loomis and the Man in Black should be racing with Jamie in tow against Michael, right? And so
Right.
this is where maybe Halloween had started to sag, right? You got killed on Halloween 3, Halloween 4, maybe people are like, I don't know if it's as good. And Halloween 5 is where they said, we have this really cool story, right? The Thorn, Loomis is all the way fucking mad. Jamie is now dealing with true guilt, right? And these are all great new additions to the series. And they said, but let's waste 1 hour of this movie doing a really shitty Friday the 13th movie. It's really stupid for the vast majority of the film, and it's such a fucking bummer because when this movie's good, it's doing the Halloween movie as good as almost all of them do it.
Yes.
We just have to waste the entire middle section of the movie doing jack shit.
It's a weird choice, and I think you and I can both agree that it sucks for about an hour.
Yeah. There is literally an hour of this movie you could throw out, and it does not change the narrative of the film for 1 second, and that is the truest sign of a shitty film.
But you
Not a
do
shitty
get
film,
this,
that's too mean.
but you do get this minute of really great addition
Yes.
to the mythos.
Right.
And it makes it very worthwhile.
But that's what I mean. If this wasn't a Halloween film, no one would make it past the 1 hour mark. You would turn
Absolutely
this film off. And that's what is really hard is because I think they deliver some of the more interesting and cool Halloween stuff that definitely became the connective tissue to Curse of Michael Myers
Totally.
and somewhat stayed with us all the way through every Halloween afterwards, right? And Donald Pleasant's last really good performance.
Yes.
Because in Curse, he's just not doing the exact same. It's not really Loomis again. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's the very last ride of Loomis.
Yeah, it's post Loomis.
Yeah, and so you're wasting so much of the good. And again, Danielle Harris as Jamie is so fucking good in these two movies.
Yeah.
And it's
a
amazing
shame
that she
that-
got to come back for the Rob Zombies and have such a nice kind of capper revision of this. So, I don't know, man. But that's what I mean. When it's at its very best, this film is so fucking good.
Yeah. When it's at its best, it's among the best Halloweens, but unfortunately it has an hour that just kills it.
Yeah, it has 1 hour of the worst Friday the 13th movie buried in the middle, where it's essentially unwatchable. And that kills me because even Halloween H2O, which I think is worse than this movie because they don't find anything interesting past Laurie's grief, right?
Right.
At least, I mean, even that one is pretty streamlined, right? They don't detour into another movie.
No.
So that's
that
that's
one
the
is
weird part.
that one is a slasher. That one's a true blue slasher.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. This has always been a mixed one for me. And this is why when they got to Curse, which people almost universally hate, I was really glad for Curse because it added more weird. It added more weird, and it added more things that felt like Michael Myers to me. Right?
I agree.
And same with H2O and Resurrection and this and that. This is, to me, where they had lost total faith in what they were doing. And it's sad because it felt like they were right there, right? Like maybe one more rewrite away from having a really spectacular entry.
Well, I think this one is where they found out what people went to the movies for and decided that that was what they were going to make. And I think that's the fatal flaw in any of the Halloween movies we've watched, because they weren't trying to just make another addition to the story. Instead, they were trying to do what people wanted. And I think that's the thing about all the Halloween movies, but particularly 5, is like, it's so obvious and clear when you watch The Revenge of Michael Myers that they're trying really hard to please everyone. And that's just not what these movies are about.
Yeah. No, and that's the hard part. Again, like I said, this movie is a masterclass in what are the advantages of a franchise and what are the fucking weaknesses. And this is an absolute make these two neighbors and see which one's yard dies first, and then the gunfire starts. It is fascinating. All right, guys. That's it for The Revenge of Michael Myers. Tomorrow, Tommy Doyle has his fucking revenge.
Yes, the Curse.
Kind of on Curse of Michael Myers. A very strange, and I would say too maligned, entry into the Halloween series. Guys, we thank you so much. We know that these Octobers are a lot of content. We hope that you guys have as much fun with them as we do. We put a lot of work into them, and it means the world to us that you guys are as excited about these movies as we are. As always, please take a second and leave us a rating and review. Email the show, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. Follow and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Nerd Alchemist. And you can find us on every social media site that you're on. We love nothing more than communicating with people who listen to this show. Thank you guys so much. Download all the other shows from the rest of this month before and those coming ahead. Again, especially those that have guest hosts, because they were so spectacular.
Oh my God. All of them were fucking awesome.
Just literally a murderer's row of awesome Thorn-style murder bots. They were so good.
Like, Rob's was great. There are more coming that are even better. Even Rob's other one is even better.
You guys are in for a real treat. You have heard some, and more good ones to come. For the Film Alchemist, I'm Josh Griffey.
I'm Alex Dandina.